Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Elevate Podcast. This is episode number 37. I'm Robert Kalin, here with...
I'm Mike Newman. Great to be with you here this afternoon as we record this episode. As we're going to talk about breaking through the terror barrier. That's that barrier where we think sometimes that, hey, I just can't do this anymore. Or I'm too afraid to step out and take that next call or make that next call. And so today, Robert, as we talk about this, let's get into some of the areas where what causes us maybe to have some of these thoughts, feelings, and be looking at, what are those things that we need to be conscious of so that we can get past those barriers that come up for us.
Yeah, that's great. I think there's so many things with the terror barrier that are, terror barrier, I think, was developed by Bob Proctor, conceptually. And he's got some great insights on that. If you haven't watched anything that he does on YouTube or any of his social media channels, worth looking into. But, the terror barrier for us is really anytime we step out of our comfort zone. Mm-hmm. We're in our comfort zone more often than we think we should be. We should be out of our comfort zone more often than we actually are. But at least for me, I'm in my comfort zone a lot. And anytime I step outside of my comfort zone, I have to push through that fear. And that's a hard thing to do. It requires a lot. It requires like the consciousness to say, I'm afraid and I need to do it afraid, whatever it is. I need to do this thing afraid. And that's okay. On the other side of this, it's going to be better. It's going to be maybe not easier, but it's going to be better. I will have done something hard, scary, whatever it may be, right? And I would say the first thing is just that awareness.
Okay. So when you talk about awareness, so we're aware that we're afraid to step out of our comfort zone. And we think about, what is it that it's going to do to us? We make up these stories in our head about, people are going to criticize me. Well, the world probably really cares less about what you're really doing.
They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah. Or they don't even know you're doing anything. And then the other part of that, though, is I think that when we think about this area of the terror barrier and coming through, is there's a subconscious mind thing that goes on with us. And in our subconscious mind, we may not even be able to identify what that fear is. Yeah. And so there's the self-awareness that, hey, I'm afraid. The second part of working through that is being able to identify what are those, one person called them gremlins. What are those gremlins that come around in your life and tell you, hey, you're not good enough, or, you shouldn't do that, or who do you think you are? Those are some of the gremlins. You've heard this saying that the earlier bird gets the worm. There's the, what about the other saying that, better later than now, or all the different colloquialisms that we use, all contradict each other.
Yeah.
And so we've got to be able to come through and identify what are those things that are terror barrier. So let's just use an example. So you're working on a new brand. I'm not saying you are, but somebody's working on a new brand.
Yep.
And so what do? I had this happen to me today. I got an email from somebody, said, hey, I got these 3 different covers on my book design. What do you think? She probably sent it to who knows how many people in her email, but probably a lot, more than just me.
Yeah.
And so she's getting all this feedback. Okay. So what if the feedback's different than what she thinks it is? So when we think through this process of identifying, I need some input from somebody, then what is it that we do with that input?
Yeah. there's so many things racing through my brain right now. I'm thinking back to my book, where I went and got specific feedback from people in different generations. And the feedback that I got in one generation was all virtually the same. In another generation, it was all virtually the same. And in another generation, it was kind of a mixed bag, which I found really interesting. Mm-hmm. And when I was thinking about the ultimate goal of my book, I had to almost eliminate 2 of the feedback sectors because it wasn't the target audience.
Yeah. And so you had, in your case, maybe it wasn't a fear about what you're going to have for a cover of your book, but you wanted to have a cover that appealed to a certain audience.
Right.
And then once you did the random survey or however you did it, and you had the 3 different covers, and I was one of those people in a different generation that chose a different cover, you realize that, hey, this isn't about me or about the people that I thought about. It's about the people that are going to read my book.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so part of coming through that terror barrier and finding out, hey, this is what I want to do, you had to kind of step outside your comfort zone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think, all of us have to step outside our comfort zone, even just to do a business. Anybody who's started a business has taken a huge risk, probably had family members that said, you're a little bit out of your mind. Why would you do this? It could be even somebody close to you, like a spouse, who's like, well, should we risk that amount of money to do this thing that is unknown, right? We all have to push through the terror barrier at some point in our lives. And I think this is a really relevant thing, the subconscious mind that you were talking about earlier, that we've all told ourselves a story and we allow other people to tell stories or write stories in our mind. That's called the program. Okay. The subconscious mind is programmed from where you are right now. Throughout your life, it's been being programmed to think certain thoughts, to avoid certain actions, or, I'll go back to one. I was afraid to speak in public. When I was in school, I was so afraid to speak in public. And I had this story of when you get up there, you are going to mess it up. You're going to screw it up so bad. Everybody's going to laugh. And it's a serious time, right? When you get up there and speak, and it's not a time for laughter when people are laughing at you. That's like huge rejection for me, being an I, right? In the DISC assessment. And I had told myself this story so much that it affected things that I actually did. Where high school, I transferred high schools just to get out of doing a presentation. You guys in high school, I still loved you. If you're listening to this, it wasn't you, it was me. But for all of us, we tell ourselves these stories, and they become subconscious in our mind, and we have to really think about, why did I just feel that way? I just got this like nervous energy about to walk up on stage. Why am I feeling like this? It's not dismissing the feelings that you have. It's asking, why am I feeling like that?
Yeah. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to walk us down a trail that we didn't talk about. But because you brought up your book and the terror barrier, there's probably a lot of people out there that want to write a book.
Yeah.
And they're afraid of what people will say.
Sure.
And so we talked about self-awareness already. We said something around the idea of identifying what those fears are once you discover it. And then you've got to really come up with a strategy. So talk with us a little bit about, some of the thinking that went behind the strategy that you came up with about writing your book.
Yeah. So my first piece of my strategy was, I need to get the word out there to hold myself accountable. So I made a social media post that said, hey, I'm going to write a book. That was the first step. And for me, if I didn't do that, I know I would have gave myself excuse after excuse why it wasn't getting done. I'm too busy. I've got these things going on. But if I had other people saying, hey, how's the book coming along? That would give me that inspiration that I needed to be like, you know what? I need to keep going. I need to write another chapter. And then in my process, I'm a little scatterbrained, what they call, I think that's what they call it. Organized chaos, another way of saying it. my writing process was I would write a little bit here and I'd write a little bit over there. And then I'd come back to this thought or idea and I'd write a little bit. And I was like, this isn't working. I need to change what I'm doing. What I really need to do is I need to create a table of contents and do chapter headings just to keep myself on track. Otherwise, I'd have a book that was all my thoughts and no cohesion. My editor, Arlen, said the first few drafts that I had written, she goes, man, you gave me what she calls reader whiplash, which was a change in a thought or idea so fast that it just was like, wait, what's going on?
No transitions.
Missed that. No transitions at all. And so that was very helpful to have an editor as well, just with my process. But I did the table of contents first, and then I would start writing out those thoughts and ideas more in order.
So you said something there about the person that helped you. And
Yeah.
so she was kind of a writing coach or an editor
Yep.
for you. And so that's another step in how you get through these terror barriers. You need to bring in some expertise at times.
Yeah.
And find some people that can support you. So you had, being a part of the project, I understand a little bit about, what you went through, but not all the feelings that you had and doubts and
Yeah.
all those things that come up to us. But as you're thinking through, who do I invite to be a part of this Generous Network launch team is what you set up. And I may be calling
Generous
it
Influencers launch team. Yeah.
Generous Influencers launch team. And so you selected people to be a part of that. And why did you select those people?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why I selected those people. Number one, I think when you launch a book, when you launch anything, right? It takes more than just yourself to do it, right? You launch a business, and just because you open a business doesn't mean people are going to come through the doors. I mean, if you build it, they will come is totally false in the business world. You can build it all day long, but until you can get past yourself so that people know what you're doing, you can't do anything. And so I knew I had to get people who could then share my book to people they know in order to get the word out there. So I selected those people for many reasons, that being one of them. Another one being I selected people that I could trust with the content of my book, in the sense of, Mike, I'm sending you my book. What I'd really appreciate is send me like a quote or something that stood out to you and why it made an impact in your day or your thoughts, right? So that I could then share that with my followers, right? People who may not have picked up the book if I just said, hey, this book, you should really get this book. But here's another person's thought on why you should get this book.
So you created not only a support network in the people that you invited to be a part of that, but then you utilized their feedback to then expand the influence. It's not just Robert and his ideas around generous influencers and how to impact the world in which we live. It's also other people's thoughts about how they responded to what you had to write. So in this part that we've talked about overcoming this terror barrier aspect of things and using your book as a process, one, you started with being, first of all, identifying that, hey, I want to write a book, but this is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Okay. So
when I started, I had no clue what the book would be.
Okay.
It was just, I had a lot of things in my mind and thoughts that I wanted to put on paper that I felt like would add value to someone else. Like if I'm able to just share these thoughts with you, it may spur something else. I don't know what that's going to be, but so I had no clue exactly what this book was going to end up being.
Yeah. And so then you went from identifying different aspects of what you thought were in the book then to then getting a group of people around you that could help you, and then getting a person that would give you honest and open feedback around what it was that you're writing.
And I'll tell you, I got some pretty honest feedback, from I don't like your writing style, it doesn't speak well to me, to I think this is great and this has impacted my life in a huge way. And really taking all of that and saying, even in business, you guys listen up. You're not going to serve everybody. You have to have a target market. You have to know your audience. Not everybody who fits my target market for my book will enjoy my book or read my book or apply anything from my book, right? And so, but you have to, the more people that you can get it out there to, the more likelihood that the right people are going to see it, know it, respond to it, and potentially have life-changing experience because of it.
Yeah.
So,
I think the last part of that terror barrier thing is in you got the professional assistants to really help you hone this in, get it done, come up with the schema. And earlier we were talking off camera about the next steps of the marketing plan that you have, where you're enlisting other people to help you with areas where you struggle.
Yeah.
And I think that when we overcome the terror barrier, I think that is the biggest thing is to realize there are other people there that can help me do the things that I'm afraid to or don't know how to do.
I think that's so true. And we go from in the comfort zone of the terror barrier, we really are in a scarcity mindset. But going to the other side, it's an abundance mindset saying, I can push through the fear, and there are people who are willing to step in and help me through this. It's not, I'm scared, I'm focused on me. It's not about me. If I can just get through that fear and other people are there willing to help you. My editor did such a fantastic job. A great example of being a person who, when I would do something stupid, like, not have a transition and give her reader's whiplash, she would call me on it and say, hey, you need to put a transition here because I don't know what you just said. The content was good, but I don't know how you got from this thought to this thought, and there really needs to be something there. She even helped me process through, like, this chapter that you wrote really doesn't belong here. It really belongs over here. And I wrestled with her a couple of times with this concept of, like, if you guys read the book, the beginning of the book, I talk about wholeness and the need for there to be wholeness, because if we operate from a place with a lack of wholeness, it's really going to create burnout. It's going to create all these things. And I was wrestling with these thoughts as I was kind of going into this process with her. And she was like, then why don't you just, I was focused on chapter 1. This is what chapter 1 is, but there's like a pre-chapter here. And she goes, well, why don't you just move that to chapter 3? So my original chapter 1 is chapter 3. And I wrote 2 other chapters based on the thoughts that we had wrestled with in that process. So
I think the points that you're bringing out here, Robert, around coming through this terror barrier is that the other thing is that we think that sometimes our plans should be in a straight line. It should be linear. I should be able to go from here to there just like that. But instead, it's spiraled, it's forward, it's backwards, it's 2 steps to the side, and then you get to the point where you actually have now published a book that is available to people at bookstores or where you buy books online. Is it available now?
Anywhere you buy books.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up today in this episode about the terror barrier, what might be something that you would encourage somebody who is thinking about, hey, I want to do this. Maybe it's write a book. Maybe it's start a business. Maybe it's I want to change the way my brand looks. What advice would you give them?
I would give them 2 things. Number 1 is I would give them cautious optimism and say, you've been given this idea for a reason. It's not an accident that you're having these thoughts. Okay. So walk in when you're like soliciting feedback from people, know that they are probably going to say, hey, I don't understand what you're doing, and be optimistic in that. They might not see your vision, but you've been given a vision that you're trying to carry out. The second thing is I would say, do it afraid. Push through it no matter what, because you've been given a vision and you should push through that terror barrier to the other side, because something beautiful is waiting for you and you just don't know exactly what that is yet.
All right. Well, thanks, Robert, for your candidness and
Yeah.
by taking you down a trail we hadn't talked about beforehand. Looking forward to next week when we have our next conversation. And anything else to finish us up today?
You guys, you are awesome. Whatever you've got going on right now, whether you're afraid of it, whether you're struggling with it, keep pushing forward. Keep doing amazing things. The world is changed by the small, consistent impact that you have every single day. So just keep pushing forward. We're excited for you and what is happening in your business, in your brand, and in your leadership. And we're here for you. So anytime you guys want to, shoot us a comment, whatever that looks like, we take that feedback, we turn it into episodes, we turn it into content where we can add value to you. And like, share, subscribe. We'll look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode. Till then, take care. God bless.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.